Hello, this is the first series for logic questions during IC design interview. Mostly if you're a new grad, logic questions will be asked during interviews to let the recruiter know if you can solve a problem independently. Mostly it's for new grad because they just want to get a sense of how you solve problems. And although it might sound like stupid to ask these questions in interviews, they do get asked in high-tech companies in the Bay Area. So the 8-ball problem was one of the logic questions I got asked. So the question is shown over here. So we have 8 balls, 7 of them are identical weight, and 1 of them is slightly heavier. And we also have a perfect scale to compare the weights. And the question is, what's the least number of tries to find out the heavier ball? So pause the video for a minute and see if you can come up with the answer. So I'm just gonna jump to the solution. So I think the most important thing is to let the recruiter know your thought process. So let's say if we have 8 balls over here, and one of the heavier balls is this one. The easiest way to do it is just to partition this into a group of 4 and 4. And then we put these two on the scale. And then whenever the scale, which side is heavier, we know that the heavier ball is at that group. So the heavier ball will be at the left group, and then we can just discard this group. And then after that, we can put these 4 balls on the scale with a group of 2 and 2. And then the same logic applies. Whichever the scale tilts, we know that is the heavier group. So we know that this group is discarded. And then once we are only left with 2 balls, we simply put one of them on the scale. And whichever one is the heavier one, we know that is the heavier ball. So doing this method, we total need a number of 3 tries. So this is the best we can do if we partition the group into 4 and 4. But can we do better than this? So I'm going to draw the 8 balls again. So another way to think of it is don't just cut it in half. Just try like a scheme of 3, 3, and 2. So the heavier ball, there's going to be 2 different ways. So the heavier ball can be at a group of 3, or it can be at a group of 2. But let's start analyzing if the heavier ball is at a group of 3. So what we will do is we will put a group of 3 and group of 3 on the scale. And then whichever the scale tilts towards, we know that the heavier ball is at that group. So in this case, we know that these 5s are not going to be, the heavier ball is not going to be included at these 5 balls. So once we have these 3, we can just pick either 1 and 1 of them on the scale. So if we put these 2 identical balls on a scale, then we know that the heavier ball is going to be the one that we didn't put on the scale. But if one of the heavier ball is put on the scale, then the scale will simply tilt that way, so we know where the heavier ball is. So for this, if the heavier ball is at the group of 3, then we know we only need 2 tries. But what happens if the heavier ball is at the group of 2? So let's analyze that. So we have the 8 balls over here. And then the heavier ball is at the group of 2. So we are going to do the same thing. We're going to put the group of 3 and 3 on a scale. And because the scale will simply be balanced, we know that the heavier ball is not at these 6 balls. So we only have 2 balls left, and then this is really easy. We just simply put 1 and 1 on the scale, and whichever the scale tilts, we know that is the heavier ball. So during this case, we also only need 2 tries. So the answer to this question is we only need 2 tries to find the heavier ball. So the main point to solve this question is you just have to figure out how many ways you can partition the 8 balls and just try every combination of them. And then once you try every combination, you'll notice that partitioning the groups into 3, 3, and 2 will give you the minimum tries of 2. So that's it for this question, and I'll see you next time.